So, yeah, this can be really casual. You can literally sit here with your iPad, whatever you want. I pick up my phone. I have my phone. And we just chat. There's just a camera right there.
Exactly.
It's like, how about that? And I like, so some people have been sitting crisscross applesauce.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm literally wearing a diaper. Madam Flo is here, so it's not giving sitting crisscross applesauce.
No.
Ooh, but I can do like this.
Leg up, yeah.
Right, give it a leg up.
There we go.
So yeah, just to like bring us into the mental health conversation, I've noticed lately that there have been moments where I've like neglected some things about, especially depression, for the sake of just like, showing up for the people around me. And oftentimes I'm like, okay, that's not as important, or that's not as like immediate as a priority as showing up for myself. Mm-hmm. So my first little like quick question is, can you recall like a really recent moment where you've done that, like neglected just for the sake of somebody else or for the sake of your surroundings?
Yeah, definitely. I think I get into my emotions really quickly often. And that's something that I'm working on myself, of like, what is actually happening? Is it the people not loving you, or what is it? So I think it's been a journey for me to realize what helping myself actually is, versus like I may just be doing this out of like my own stress or trying to people please, or maybe this is even how like my core beliefs of like how I grew up. And so something that's coming to mind right now is just like recently one of my friends made me feel a type of way, and I think that I was like kind of neglecting my own feelings, because I was like, am I really wildin'? Like I was kind of gaslighting myself. Like, okay. Am I wildin', or am I allowed to feel hurt about this? And I really had to sit back and realize, like, yeah, you're allowed to have emotions, but it's just about how like you act upon it. And I don't think I was acting upon it in the best ways for me or my friend. And I think that neglecting just like showing up for what feels good for me was like a good example of that for myself, like recently.
Yeah. That's real, because friends, getting into anything with a friend hits different.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what do we do? Like, what's going on here? Like,
what happened? I thought we was done.
right. First of all, sometimes there's a moment where it's just like, wait, is this for real? Like, is this really happening? Even if it's something small, like even if someone says something that's like, oh, that kind of, that kind of was weird.
Yeah.
Like, why'd you say that?
Yeah.
It's like, wait, is that for real? Like, so yeah, that is, especially with friends, I feel like it takes a minute sometimes to convince, at least me, I'm like, it takes a minute for me to convince myself that I'm allowed to feel mad or upset or about that, or however the emotion is showing up. So yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it's a big one. Because we allow our friends to like trample over our boundaries a little bit more than like other people. Like if a stranger like said something to you, you'd be like, excuse me, but
my fist is already
no, legit, right? Like, but if it's your friend, you're like, wait a minute, like,
what you talking about?
You're like, wait. I'm gonna just ignore that and keep it pushing, I guess. But like that didn't sit right.
Right.
And it's like, what is that? Is that actually serving us? Like, so I think that that's something that I've been trying to navigate.
Yeah. I could talk about like shifts in friendships for hours as well, because at this age, just so many transitions going on with everybody. So many transitions. And like some people don't know what's what, or some people like blame other people for the fact that the communication or what the friendship looks like is changing. And I'm like, I was always of the opinion in my friendships that that's not anything. First of all, people would say, oh, it's not your fault. I'm sitting here like, it shouldn't be an error or what is it, an aura of fault. Like there's no, I don't think there's anything bad about this experience we're having right now. We don't have the same schedule anymore. Like we don't have, we're not in a convenient environment where we're seeing each other all the time anymore.
Yeah.
And that's life. I don't think there's even a fault to put on to this situation because there's nothing wrong with that.
I totally feel that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that's something that I had to try to get out with friends sometimes, and not and me trying to be the people pleaser, like you mentioned. Like, I'm trying not to sound too harsh. Like, I'm just like, okay, not to sound like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I don't think we need to do all that. Like, I think we need to be saying that there's, like, oh, it's not your fault. I'm like, it's not a fault. I'm like, it's not even a fault.
It's not a fault at all.
I'm like, how about that? It's not a fault. Okay, so welcome to 23, 24, 25, a podcast about not only surviving 2023, being slapped in the face by 2023, but also about the wildly complicated transition that is turning 25. I'm your host, Josca, and I've invited my friends here to talk about all things life as baby adults. And today I'm joined by Taisja, my really this was so, I loved how we came to know each other because we became roommates at NYU, and it was like such a surprise.
Such a surprise.
Because before you came in there, I was just like, I don't know who they're going to give me. Like, they keep saying they're going to put a roommate in here, and I just hope, we were all like, I want it to be someone cool. And they ate with that. They ate with that one. I'm just like, okay, NYU ate with that one little thing.
That one little thing.
And so we came together and we just had a lovely little time.
Legit, yeah.
And I really appreciated that. So we're here today talking about mental health because, I feel like something I remembered about being roommates is we kind of would talk about mental health sometimes. And that's just kind of the thing a lot of students would talk about, like, inadvertently, too. Like, we were stressed out. We were a little stressed out doing a lot. And so I also know, what was your major at NYU?
I was in applied psych, and then I had a minor in, like, public policy.
Yes. I remembered the psychology bit. And I was just like, I would love to know I'm going to ask you more in a minute, but I was just like curious about what inspired that route for you and like where you are now, because I know you work with children and I love children. I'm like, respect the kids.
No, actually, no, they're the future.
Yes, children are the future. Listen, children and a child shall lead them. Hello, but yeah, so I'm just like very excited to be having this conversation, and I'm so honored and appreciative that you said yes and that you're here. So we're going to start off with our little MySpace top 5, quote unquote, a riff on the top 8 MySpace, even though everybody I talk to, they're like, weren't you like 5 when I said, listen, Linda.
The T is.
Right, I know what the T is. I know what it was looking like. So the top 5 is a list that can include like fictional characters, books, real people, whatever you wanted to include, but just anything that influenced your growth as a person, anything that influenced your growth as a child coming up, whatever period or form of life you want to choose. That's your top 5. So what can you give us?
Yeah, so my top 5, I based it on like 2023 and things that helped me grow in 2023. And I would say the first was getting a therapist. And that sounds crazy for me to be saying. Aren't I supposed to be the therapist here? But I didn't have a therapist for a while, just because money is, you know how that is.
Right.
And I didn't have insurance anymore. And so I was like raw dogging it crazy. And it was not okay. Like, I was not having a fun time. And prior, like my therapist before, I was working with her for like 4 or 5 years. But she was white. And so I now have a black woman therapist, and it's so great. And I think that's really been like a grower for this year of like having someone where I didn't necessarily feel like I had to explain things to my old therapist, but this, like, I really don't have to explain things to my therapist now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a thought of, like, will they get it? Like, not a thought at all. So that was my first one.
Love that.
And my second one would be, I'm not gonna lie, my iPad. Because
I want an iPad. Listen.
let me tell you, I'm out here, like, giving you, what is it called? Advertisements for Apple or something. Hello, Mr. Jobs, he's dead. But, like,
Mr. Jobs.
he's gone, but, like, give the money. But the iPad, for sure, just because I've been really bad at, like, organizing my life. And I think that having, like, an actual routine and being able to, like, see it laid out and, like, just being, you know, like, it's been
life-changing.
so helpful.
I just signed up for a Notion account. Do you use Notion?
No, what's Notion?
Oh my goodness. Notion is about to be my entire life. It's like a platform where you can basically schedule stuff. You can have your business stuff, your personal life on there separated.
Oh, I think
a
I know
home
what you're
dashboard.
talking about.
Yeah, I was like looking into it the other day because I've seen people use it for their content creation, like scheduling out. And since this podcast is going to be a big endeavor for like social media and like getting visibility, I was just like, I need a different organization strategy. And then I started watching a lot of videos about using Notion. This is feel like one big ad. iPads and Notion. And so you could go on there and literally just like put it all together. And it involves like a little bit of easy coding too. So if you want to like,
that's cool.
you can make a to-do list. And the way I formed my to-do list is I can put my whatever I'm doing that day or before that day will be on the to-do list in the list format. Then there's a calendar format. If I happen to type in something for a later date beyond the day that I'm typing it in, it won't go on my list, but it'll be on the calendar. And when that day comes, I'll be able to see it. It'll pop up on my to-do list. And so I'm just like, I like how you can like make it work for you, like how you like it. And so yeah, it's like it does a lot. It does a lot.
So much. And I think even to that point, like just the flexibility of like seeing your stuff and being able to just like actually navigate it, because in your brain you're like, holy shit, I have so much to do, but like seeing it written down, you're like, oh, that's a lot to do, but like I can break it down into steps. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And then this one is a good one.
Okay.
Rihanna's style. That's helped me grow so much.
Say more.
I think because she's such a strong woman, and I feel like she embodies that in her style. I think she also like goes against the norms of like what you're supposed to look like as a black woman, as a black pregnant woman, like just the norms that have been in place for so long, and how she doesn't give a fuck. Like she's just like, hey. And I think that idea of like not giving a fuck about norms has been like really impactful for me this year, just because I'm going to another PWI, and I think that like it's been even more stressful because at NYU I was around like a lot of black people, but like now like there's no one. So I think that the way that I show up in these spaces is like norm breaking, and it's intimidating, but also at the same time, it's like something that needs to be done. So I relate that to Rihanna on some like, yo, you see how bad she is for just being like herself? And I think that's where like my thoughts are going. Like, I'm just that bad motherfucker because I'm myself.
Yes. I love Rihanna. I love
Come on now. If you don't,
go get checked. Let's be for real.
I don't know, because
don't know what to say about that.
And then my last two are like sensory, I guess. One of them is a weighted blanket.
Okay.
Been loving a weighted blanket just because when life gets overwhelming, like I don't know, have you ever like just wanted to like cuddle in your sheets and like just be under them and just and I think a weighted blanket really does that. It feels really safe, and it's been helpful for me to like get my shit together, like to have a revamp moment. And then the other is yoga, and that's been so great. I've been doing yoga for a while, but I think I'm growing more mindfully into like my practice of like, why am I moving my body? Like, what is the point of this? And I've noticed that there are like a lot of emotional releases that I've been experiencing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So like a lot of the times, like I'll do, or even just like squats and stuff, like I'll start crying and it'll be like crazy because it's like, why am I crying right now? But it's really like so therapeutic and such a release because it's like, I may have just been holding mad tension in my body because life is stressful.
Yeah.
But like here I am doing something that makes me feel strong and like good about myself. So like fuck it. Like
I have a similar reason why I love yoga so much.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, because okay, so in acting school we weren't necessarily doing yoga, but we were paying attention to where our body holds a lot of tension. And when we did like certain poses and tapped into certain positions that like a lot of people cried, a lot of people experienced so many different emotions. When we were doing stuff like around like the pelvic area,
Yes,
and I started bawling one time, it was kind of like overwhelming and scary to me because I was like, I didn't know I was holding all that. I was like, what? But then I had recalled that I am a person who cries a lot. Like I just emotional. Like I'm like, people will say, oh, you're a Cancer. I know, like they're just tears. What do you want me to say? But I went through a period where I have remembered that I was like, I can't remember the last time I cried, and that was eerie to me. And so like when I released that, it's like I wasn't necessarily aware and like thinking of it beforehand, but I was just like, wow, like I used to cry so frequently that not crying for even like 2 weeks, that's just like so much being held in. That's like so much tension building inside of me. And that was a lot. And then I started doing my little puff yoga, like, and it felt so good. And what you said about feeling strong, like I was also like hyper aware while I was doing yoga, a little, you know, a little loopy, little nice and flowy yoga, but I was really aware that, wow, my body can do some incredible things. And, like, I should be moving my body like this. And my body deserves to feel these things. I was going through all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's great. I love yoga.
Yeah. Yeah, that part of, like, oh, my body is so incredible. Like it keeps me up every single day. And it's like, whoa, what a body.
Right? What a body.
Definitely. But that's my MySpace 5.
I love that. That's a perfect top 5. Everybody has had such great things. I think the yoga has been one of my favorites. Like, that is something that I'm like, after I stopped cramping, even though yesterday I was doing a yoga pose for my cramps, and I was like, it's kind of helpful.
Yeah.
On day 1, nothing really helps that much though.
I'd be like fake lying to myself, like, do I actually want to do this yoga? No, because I'm in pain. But then I get on the mat and then I start feeling better, and I'm like,
yeah, it does a little something.
I guess my pelvic floor is like being strong, you know? Like,
oh my goodness, that does remind me though, one time I was having a really, really bad first day of my period one time in college. And we did have like a yoga flow at the beginning of movement class at acting school that day. And I told my teacher, like, I kind of pulled her to the side. We had this black yoga teacher, and I pulled her to the side, and I was just like, I'm on the first day of my period, and I need to take it slow. Like, can you, like, recommend just some, what's it called? Like, I could adjust some of the movements and some of the poses just in case, like, and then she was like, yeah, sure. And then, like, she starts class, and then she walks over to my mat, and she was like, everyone turn around here. Josca is on her moon cycle, so there are some, I was like, whoa! She just, like, commanded the whole class. I said, oh, I didn't know I was going to be put on blast.
Not what we were asking for at all.
She said, so why don't you get into a downward dog for me? And she was like having me demonstrate. These are the positions on your, what did she call? I think she called it a moon cycle. She was like, these are the positions that you should do. And you want to stay away from this. She was explaining things that you would want to stay away from. I said, okay, why? You could have
said that without pointing me out.
I said, yeah, this could have been a forehead kiss because I don't know why everybody else needed to know that.
Actually, she did too much.
She did. I said she did a little too much, but I was just like, I wasn't too embarrassed because I'm also one of those people who just talks about periods kind of freely because I'm just like, we shouldn't stigmatize it. But I wasn't expecting her to do all that. I was just like, I'm like, she better be glad I'm one of those.
Right.
So we're already talking about this, oddly enough, but it's my first question about have you noticed any correlations between your mental and physical health? And how do they fuel one another in your experience?
Yeah, we are definitely already talking about that.
I was like, I should have just asked the question.
Perfect transition.
Right.
Yeah, so I think for something that I've been studying is somatic therapy. And that's about like recognizing and pinpointing where in your body you're feeling your emotions, so that you're able to recognize in other instances when you're like having those same feelings in your body so that you can like identify what the emotion is. And so that's something that I've been like trying to notice within my own body, because I think obviously I feel like it's way better if I know how to do it on myself before like trying to administer it. But I think within myself, like things that I notice is just like whenever I am working out, I'm like telling myself like, look at how strong you are. Like actually, like look at how strong you are. And I feel like that makes my mental health feel a lot better because it boosts my self-esteem. Like it helps boost like my understanding of like what strength is. It boosts like it. So I think there's just like so many areas that it comes into play where I'm like working out and moving my body and being inside of my body and recognizing that I'm in my body has been so helpful for like my brain. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I need to work out more consistently. I feel like I'm getting that push. Not from people specifically, but just like, I think that some of when I get down in a little bit of a hole or in a little bit of a rut, I notice that I'm just like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed and like how I'm going to fit this into my routine. It seems like a lot of energy to initiate. And also I think about like sometimes my diet or just like the meal that I'm planning, whatever, however you want to put it. I'm not going on a diet, but the food that I eat. The food that I eat. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, that's a whole big thing that I need to pay more attention to and be a lot more intentional about. It's a lot. Right. It's a lot. Just yesterday I was like, dang, we have to eat every day. Every day multiple times. Every day, multiple times. I'm not going for a whole job. I've been eating one big meal a day sometimes because it is, and a little snack here and there. Like y'all, especially if you're in New York, like I don't like to give away too much tea. I am one of those people who likes to gatekeep certain things. Just because if too many people know, then it's not going to exist anymore. Like this world has so many people in it. That's just the reality. But New York is such a magical city. So sometimes I'm just like, I'll go to a restaurant before they close and be like, can I just have whatever y'all have left? Like, and I got some good free food from doing this. Like, y'all don't sleep. Like, don't sleep.
I'm not going to hold you back.
Yeah.
That's a little move right there.
Right, like.
What are they going to do? They throw it away anyways.
Right. They were about to throw it away. Listen, like, I know some places, like, they don't. That's why people dumpster dive, which especially when you get it, when restaurants first throw out their stuff, like you get it and it's fine because something like they just put that out there.
Literally.
But sometimes like 10 minutes before a place closed, I'm just like, hey, like the other day I got 3 nice looking slices.
Ooh.
They was
3 of them.
Right. He was like, you want another one? I was like, yes. Because they had a lot left. I'm like, y'all have half a pie of this one, half a pie of that one. I'll take 3, sure.
Sure, why not?
Right, sure. I'm just like, so sometimes it's overwhelming for me to wanna like place all these things in my schedule that I know I need to prioritize. I'm like, especially as a performer too, I have to work on my voice. I have to make sure I get a voice warm up in. I have to make sure I get my body warm up in. I was doing Pilates every day for a certain point, and like, it's a lot. So yeah, you talking about working out right now just reminded me that I really need to give it a shot, like a consistent shot. And I'm going to be one of those people probably who are going to be like, I hate when y'all are right, because the way I feel better, that's what it's going to do. I already know.
It'd be crazy. Like, all I needed to do was do this for 21 days. Make it a habit.
Make it a habit.
And
is that the magic number, 21 days?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh my goodness.
Do something for 21 days and then apparently it's a habit.
I want to try.
Yeah.
I want to try that theory. I want to test that theory. I believe it, because I can't recall intentionally being like 21 days. And I tried to do a Pilates challenge for 30 days, but then on like day 18 or something like that, I got sick. Like, I thought I had COVID, but it was just a really bad cold, and it was like one of those 2-week colds. Like,
where you're like,
so I totally just abandoned the challenge, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it again and start from day one at some point. Okay, so my next question, because you kind of mentioned it here and there, you gave us a little tidbit, a little hint that you are in a mental health career. So what inspired you to pursue this field, and can you tell us a little bit about specifically what it is that you are pursuing?
Yeah, so I'm currently pursuing my mental health counselor's degree. So I'm going to be a therapist. I already work with clients, like talk therapy. And what inspired me to do it is growing up, I knew that I had feelings, but didn't know what to do with them. And so I think the main goal has always been to be able to provide therapy to Black and brown children, more specifically in the Bronx. That's the overall goal, is to create a more awareness to mental health, and what services and how it can actually improve your life. And so I've been working with a lot of my clients right now, and a lot of them, the majority of what I've noticed is a main issue. The theme is that the systems of oppression really fuck us up. Really fuck us up. And I've noticed that oftentimes with my clients, it's not necessarily their own doing. Yes, they may have done something. Yes, they may have cheated on their partner, but it's why did they cheat on their partner? What was the function of cheating? So something that I've been thinking about is oh, you're working so hard, you're doing so much because of this capitalistic understanding that if you work hard, you'll achieve and you'll be great. But that's not the reality for some people, where it's I'm working so hard and yet I'm still not seeing any fruits of my labor. And so just thinking about those types of things and how that affects you, how you might feel you ain't shit because you're I'm doing so much but nothing is happening. I can't provide for these people that I want to provide for. And so yeah, that's the main reason why I've gone down this road of trying to be a therapist, because I want others to realize the shit that you're going through isn't yours. It's dead ass not yours. It's a product of the system, and they want you to feel like shit. That's the purpose of it.
Yeah. Ooh, and that's another tough pill to swallow. That's been my thing today. There's a lot of tough pills to swallow, that we have to keep reminding ourselves that we're not at fault for a lot of the places we are, a lot of the situations we're in. Some of them. I'm not saying blame everything on the government, but a lot of this shit is, systematic. Yes. Okay?
Absolutely, it sure is.
And that's a really beautiful goal too, focusing in on your community, because a lot of times I feel certain communities too have a stigma about who they are and where they should be, and who's there and all that type of stuff. And that's always annoyed me. Like, that's always annoyed me about where I grew up in Georgia, near Atlanta. And that's always annoyed me when people talk about the Bronx as well sometimes. Like, it's not like everybody, but you know what I mean. Like, so yeah, I think people just need to also be able to help themselves step out of other people's view or other people's perspective that has nothing to do with their reality. And it's just like, yeah, you're good where you are, but sometimes other people can cause you to get, I don't know how to describe this for our people listening, like, get all
Flustered.
That's great. Flustered in the head. I'm like, cause yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, my third question. Can you share a personal story or experience where you became aware of how your mental health was impacting people around you? Kind of like what we were saying, like sometimes we're the culprits.
Oh, absolutely.
Describe the situation, your realization, and steps you took to take accountability and make positive changes.
Yes. And also I would like to say that because even though like the systems are at play, that doesn't mean that you don't have something that you need to be doing as well. There's still accountability that needs to be taken there. And so I think that for like me, accountability is scary. I think for me, I'm really good at self-destructing, not gonna lie. Really good at it. And I think that's something that I've had to like unlearn of. I've always did things independently, and really taught myself a lot of what I know. And the second like someone doesn't meet me at my expectations, I shut them off completely. And it might not even be like don't even talk to me, I'm not texting you, but like just now I don't have any energy to talk to you about anything like vulnerable. Like, so maybe I'm hiding myself. But when it comes to like friends and stuff, like that's not what I should be doing. Because these are people that have shown that they can show up for me. And that's also been like a whole thing of like finding friends that can show up for you. But within my situation, like a lot of my friends show up for me. And so it's a thing of like, how do I make sure that I'm not allowing like my own thoughts and beliefs about people, about myself, like to self-destruct and like ruin a relationship that doesn't need to be ruined. Like it can just be a conversation, or you can just reanalyze how you're feeling, Taisja. Like it can just be like, oh, I'm angry with what happened. Let's just sit with that for like a day and like see, like, and see how we can think about things better versus like, oh, you made me so fucking angry and now like da-da-da-da-da. Like, like there's no need for any of that, or no need for like, oh, they made me angry, so like now why would I tell them that like I broke my finger? Like, some stupid shit like that, because it'd really be like, oh, there's no point for you to know anything vulnerable about me. But that's not how you're supposed to live life. Like, vulnerability is like access. It's how you communicate, kind of. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah. I like that we keep circling back to friends, because that's where I'm like, that's where the test really takes place, for real. And family, because family is like that built-in thing where people are like, oh, you have to be close, or that expectation that I've mentioned before, that people are just like, that's your brother, that's your sister, not saying that that's, people say that specifically to me, but that's kind of like a thing that happens. Like, people are like, oh, you're not, or this specific expectation from people who knew you from your younger years, then seeing you grow, and just not knowing any flavor of the Kool-Aid, but still trying to drink. And I'm just like, okay, but what? You don't even know what's going on here. So like, what? But yeah. Whew.
Yeah. I think even to that point of like, I think we talked about it a little bit before, but like people pleasing, right? Of like, how much do I give of myself away? And I think that also falls into this idea of like my mental health, of like, what is my boundary for myself? Like, what do I expect? What is the most that I'm going to take from someone? Like, what is my boundary? And I think with family and friends, it becomes really blurry and confusing, especially if you haven't, like, established that, right? Like, if you haven't been, like, in your brain, like, oh, my friends can't call me a bitch, like just certain things where you're like, this is my boundary. And it might not be that for everyone, but, like, even with the built-in friends, like your family, like, what is my boundary with my family? You never really think about that because you're just growing up with them. Like, you're just around them, and it's like, that's how this person is, that's how my mom is, that's just how they are. But it's like, no, I deserve more than that. Like, I deserve respect in the ways that I want to be respected, just like you asked for it. So I think that's something that I've been also trying to, like, unpack as well. Like, what is my boundary so that I'm not people pleasing, because I'm done with it.
Woo! When I say done with it, I was really put to the test these past few months. I said, okay, if I let another instance of this occur, then it's me, boo-boo, the fool. It's me. Hi. I'm him.
Hi.
I'm like, hi, I'm him. If I let another one of these experiences, this like type of interaction go by, and I don't say that, sometimes you have to have those type of boundaries where it's just like non-negotiable. And then what another thing is I've been coming up against, it's like, okay, I have to remember that I can disagree with people who are so, sometimes people are so adamant about something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't feel like it's for me.
Yeah.
And like, we all have to like, have a personal understanding of our decisions and our like guides, morals, what have you. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm like, I don't have the same view of a certain thing as somebody else. And then sometimes it clicks and I'm like, oh, I'm allowed to be like, I don't, that's not gonna fly. Like me and communication, for example, the way I communicate with people, because I'm very understanding. Like, I don't need to communicate with people every single day. I think in the moments that we do communicate, though, like, let's just communicate with no like false pretenses over it. I hate when people, like, for me, I can tell when people are communicating with me because they feel like they have to. Like, it feels like, just got to get this done. And you could tell because they don't, like, keep up the conversation, or they don't, like, get back to you. And it's just like, okay, like, that's kind of, why are we communicating? Like, what's the point? Like, what's the point? I'm just like, I'm not going to be here to waste my time because I'm done with that. Like, I'm past that point. And I don't really like drama. I watch the drama all the time, but like I'm like, that's what reality TV is for. But I'm not gonna sit back and instigate or be. I'm just like, me inside of it. No, I also like have a thing about feeling like I've done something to somebody, or I've like, which has happened. I mean, I've affected people in negative ways, definitely. Like, I've broken hearts, so I already know that.
Heartbreaking.
Right, heartbreaker. I'm like, so I already know the tea for that part. But, sometimes I'm just like, if I don't have to be here, I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be here. Like, nobody's forcing me to be here. With family members, with friends, I'm just like, okay, are we forcing it because of familiarity, comfortability, the whole 9 yards? Like, sometimes I'm just like, no, that's not, some things just have to be like standards.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
Yeah, that's it. Period.
Non-negotiable.
Period, yeah. For real.
Yeah.
What do you mean you've been listening this whole time and you haven't subscribed yet? I don't see what the holdup is. The button is right there. And while you're at it, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You obviously like the show.
So you have some questions
that
you're going to ask me, don't you?
I have some questions for you. So my first question is, when did you realize your mental health matters? So, like...
Oh my goodness. I think it's the kind of thing with kids, I think, when we are young and we don't have language for certain things, but we know. Like, I know this is something here, something up here in the head, in the chest. I know where I can pinpoint it, but I didn't really have the language back then to express like anxiety, like me feeling like that feeling when I'm on a roller coaster, or like getting choked up in the throat and like feeling like my heart dropped, or that type of feeling when I was a kid. Excuse me. And I realized like being with 4 siblings and kind of having to juggle like wanting attention sometimes and then not wanting attention, because I loved being alone. Like I loved being alone a lot of times. And I can recall like probably when I was in like the 3rd or 4th grade, maybe like the 3rd through the 5th grade, somewhere in that little period of time, I was getting really, really like anxious a lot of the time. Like I was getting really fed up. I was always described by people as sensitive because, really sensitive. Like they would see it as a negative way. I never really saw it as a negative way, but I was of the understanding that people don't like that. Yeah. That was just my understanding. Yeah. Not that I saw it a negative way. I would just try to hold back tears a lot of times because I don't feel like hearing people talk about me crying. Like, because I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with it, but people are so fed up for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah. But so that's the time where I started to hold back a lot, and I felt it building up, like the tension we were talking about earlier. Like, so I had to be like around the ages of like 8 through 10, just trying to figure out like what's going on. And I'm not sure if I've really mentioned this to a lot of people before, but I wet the bed until I was like 13. Yeah, that's like real. Consistently. That's real though. That's like, real. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't know that was actually something associated with anxiety. And me and my little sister shared a bed, so I don't know if she remembers that, but like I was so embarrassed because I was so embarrassed for a certain point because she's so much younger than me. Not so much. She's almost 5 years younger than me, but me being her older sister, still wetting the bed, and it was really like I don't know. That's a lot. That was a lot for me. So there was just a lot of things that were really, I didn't make the connections. I didn't have the language, but I felt like, there was a lot of things I couldn't express growing up, and I had to have some sort of release, whether that was urination or crying or some liquids. I don't know. Some liquid. Some liquid. Some liquid, got it. Right.
And I would say like you're definitely not alone in that. Just because like even in my supervision, there have been like 2 instances of like people saying that their like kid clients have been experiencing that, and it is like a whole anxiety thing, which kind of like what we were talking about, how we hold so much in our bodies. Like what the fuck? Like all of that stress was like literally coming out of you through like urination, low key. Yeah. And, like, it was like, whoa, what the hell? Like why? Like, how does our bodies, like, do that? Yeah. But I think that my second question kind of, I'm wondering also, like, maybe if you could relate it to, like, childhood, if you could. But how has your identities, like, impacted your mental health? Like, just your intersecting, individual...
Yeah.
Just yes.
Oh, where do I begin? So, from a young age, I think this does really start young because I think a lot of people can relate, but I have, like, talked to people who've had a different experience than me. Like, I was, like, really curious when I was very small, like, maybe, like, even as early as 6 years old and I learned this actually in a class at NYU in my, child adult mental health studies. When I took Sex Matters, everybody who knows me knows I always talk about Sex Matters at some point, and they're like, oh, you again with that Sex Matters class. I'm like, yes, because Sex Matters made me realize that it wasn't abnormal for me to be thinking about my body in relation to other bodies at such a young age. I used until I took that class junior year of college, I didn't realize that was okay. Like, we had to answer questions in the beginning of the class, like about children, like figuring out their bodies, and like what does it look like to masturbate, like different ways that kind of shows up, and it's not always typical in like how young that kind of starts with children are curious and stuff like that. And I was just like, I wasn't like masturbating when I was that young, but I was like, oh, like I didn't realize that certain things like children would do, or like people around me would talk about when I was a kid, was that like I didn't realize that was the correlation. And I was like, oh, that wasn't actually as abnormal as I was thinking about it. And I was just curious about like attraction, and I was trying to, and I think my anxiety also was born out of that a little bit, like the curiosity being stifled a lot of the time. Like, I wasn't even allowed to say the word sex. So, I mean, but I get it. Like, our parents grew up in a certain context, and it's hard to break out of that. But I think it would have really helped me a lot to just have some more conversations, and like not just go out and learn from people around me who also didn't know what they were doing. but yeah, I think I was kind of like getting into certain things to figure out my identity. Like nothing dangerous, but I figured out that me and my friends, I was like, this is just what it is. Like we just kind of like caress each other. We just kind of like, and I noticed, like, I also noticed my type from a young age. I was just like, I like people who are really nerdy and goofy, and like, I don't know. I'm just like, my identity wasn't attached to anything other than like certain personality traits. And that's how I started to kind of realize that I might have been more of like on the pansexual spectrum, and not just like, well, I never really thought I was heterosexual. Surprise! For people, because I know my family's going to listen to this, like, you never thought you were straight? No, I can't recall ever really thinking I was straight. I used to think that I actually didn't like guys, and I didn't talk about it for a while. Of course, and then I was like attracted to boys or whatever, but not talking about it gave me a lot of anxiety. Like, I just feel like there was nobody to talk to. There was, because of course there were people there to talk to, but I didn't want to be talked out of it. I wanted to be talked through it. Like, and that is such a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good way to say that.
It's just such a different conversation. It's shaped a different way. Like, when you're trying to like, you're not trying to bury stuff. You're trying to unearth.
Explore it.
And explore. I wanted to be like an archaeologist up in there. Like, I'm just like, yeah. So definitely I noticed that just not being able to talk about it really kind of, I don't know, it made me all the more anxious, but I'm glad there were people around at least, because I felt like the people I was experiencing these things with also needed someone to talk to. Like, we would talk to each other, but it was also like that kind of shy thing. Like, I remember this one time, I feel like this is the second time I mentioned High School Musical in the episode, but I remember one time, it was like those cunning ways you would get into those little situations with people to like try to explore explore the body or whatever. And I remember one of those times, one of my little friends was just like, "Did you see that movie High School Musical?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I've seen that movie." And I was so like naive. I was like, "Yeah, I've seen that movie."
High School Musical.
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Troy and Gabriella.
Right. Troy, Gabriella. They were just like, "Did you see what they did in that one scene?" And of course, they were referencing some kissing scene. And I was like, "Yeah." And then my friend would be like, "You want to try it?" And then, see, this is why I cannot remember who was my first kiss. Sorry to this person, but I'm so sorry. Like, I really wish I could, because I think that would be so,
Nice to have.
Nice to be able to pinpoint, but I don't remember, because me and my little friends were kind of like, we were just curious, and I'm still not under the impression that we were doing anything dangerous Me looking back on it now, at least for me and my experiences with the people I was specifically experiencing things with, I just think it was just so innocent and like writing each other notes on chalkboards and like just middle school makeouts and stuff like that. And I'm just like, but yeah, a lot of the times it was with people who were not boys, so it was just like, that's different. You know, that's something that we don't talk about, and I just like, it caused me anxiety because I couldn't talk about it. That's something I had to keep a secret, but you know, a big percentage of people went through that.
Yeah, but is it something we should be going through?
No. No.
No.
Not to say that parents should be like, go ahead, y'all, go kids.
Yeah, of course not.
No.
But
talk to the kids.
Talk to the exactly.
talk to the kids.
Talk to the kids. And very quickly, something that's coming to mind, like with that, is just like I was watching this like decolonization therapy podcast, and the woman was saying like during slavery, parents would like say, "Oh, my kid is stupid, my kid is ugly, like my kid is like all these things, all these negative things," because they didn't want like the slave owners to like take their child away. So they would like downplay them and say like all of these things about them so that they were able to keep their child. And then kind of like what you were saying, right? Like kind of like what you were saying of like our parents grew up in a different time and it's hard to break out of that. Like slavery is not that far away. And just if you don't know any better, how are you to do any better? So a lot of that rhetoric and like that understanding of life is still continued to like be passed on today. And so I like there's that one aspect of it. But then I think about just like the wider range of things of like, why can't our parents talk to us? Because like, you know, so just all of those things of like, I wish it was different, but like there's like, I guess slavery was great.
My thing I always come back to sometimes when I was getting frustrated from a standpoint of a child towards my parents was, didn't you wish that you had somebody to talk to for this certain thing? I'm like, I would try to like shake the reality of the situation and make it more empathetic. And it's just like, can you recall feeling like you were shut off, shut down, and I know, and I'm glad that I've come to the point now that I've come with my parents, because some people don't get here. Some people say, nope, this is what happened in childhood and we're not. But I do also understand that parents don't come with a guidebook for their kids. And you have to learn along the way. My thing was just listen. Listen to us. Like, listen. We're going to say stuff that's crazy. But if you actually take a step back and like listen, I just feel like it just helps you better to form your conversation and not already have like a pre-planned thing of what needs to be said and what has to be said only, because you can have points that you want to be stressed, and of course there are things children should absolutely know, but I think listening to what their understanding is of something before you start trying to drill things out of them or drill things into them, like listen to what their understanding is if they have one first. And I think that's the kind of thing where I was just like, didn't you want somebody to do that for you? Why are you not breaking the cycle yet? And that would be my thing.
Yeah, and I think even to that point, what comes to mind is like this idea of survival also, right? Like how much we're so privileged, and I'd be thinking about that shit all the time, like all the time. Like we get to legit be on phones. Like, that's crazy.
That is. I think about that a lot too.
Like that's dead ass insane. Like, our parents did not have that. Like they were not like, yo, what's up, bro? We going out tonight? Like no, it's like let me go to the house phone and be like, doop 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 doop. Hey,
page.
Let's meet each other.
My dad was telling me about a pager.
So I think even to that point of like we have so much access to so many things, even being like super oppressed people, like queer and black and all of that, like there's still so much access, whereas like before, like women deadass just got rights low-key, like black people deadass just got rights, so
we're still trying to get those right.
Like, so it's like this idea of like survival where they're like, there's no time for any of that listen to me bullshit, because we're trying to survive. Like,
and I also think about how, like, I think about this, like, my parents just couldn't run to the internet at the drop of a dime, or like pull up a TikTok and hear somebody. A lot of the things, like you're saying, a lot of the things seem so urgent and you have to respond immediately, and it's just like, I can't go to the library and pick up a book about this topic before I need to have this resolved. So exactly. Some things I'm just like, okay, that's why I wanted to explore a different relationship with my parents specifically as an adult, and just see where we could grow. Because I'm like, first of all, it wasn't a shit show. Like, I don't think, for me at least, I'm not going to talk for my siblings, but for me, I'm just like, I didn't have the worst experience growing up. So the things that I didn't like, though, and the things that I wish were different, I'm starting to see, like, first of all, I'm seeing us as people who can disagree about things. And I'm seeing us, because I'm like, some of the stuff I just would never do. You're not going to catch me making those decisions. And you're not going to catch me, like, really, like, making a tradition the end all be all. If there's something instinctually that I really don't agree with in a tradition, I'm going to move away from that. I'm not doing something for tradition's sake. So that's kind of like something, for example, but there are just a lot of things, like, I'm like, it's not a hill that I would personally die on, to be like, my parents did that to me and I'm not. But again, I didn't have the worst experience. Other people have a different experience, and people in general are totally, have totally, how am I saying this sentence? Because I don't sound like a real person right now. People have the right to do whatever they want with whatever relationship it is. Like, go no contact. Decide not to talk to them. Take a break. I've taken breaks. Take a break and then come back and reassess the relationship and grow it in different ways. Because that's really important for mental health. Breaks. Sometimes you need breaks. Because you also need that certainty that I don't have to have anxiety about, should I be talking to them right now? Should I not? No. Let's put a pin in it. I've done that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I'm glad also that you were talking about this idea of, like, I wish that, like, I had someone to help me talk through it versus, like, get me to talk me out of it. And something that's coming to mind is, like, what are things that you feel aren't necessarily, like, talked about within the queer community in regards to, like, mental health?
A couple of things, honestly. I think that there's a big thing that I was experiencing with, like, the pressure of, like, having to label myself, or the pressure of having to show up a certain way. And I think that directly affects mental health.
Definitely.
Just like the pressure of being in, like, a heteronormative relationship and people just kind of negating your identity because you're in a heteronormative relationship, and I think that's kind of tired. Like, I think we need to be for real.
I never date a straight man. Never. Like, okay, cool. That's you.
And I've had friends, honestly, and we honestly can talk about this later, because sorry about that. We had a little technical snafu. We'll be back right after this. Yes, so the pressure of having to label myself, or sometimes I feel like I don't need it, or sometimes I'm in that flow of, I feel very much on a spectrum of identity, especially with queerness. I feel very much on a spectrum, and I'm just attracted to so many different arrays of it just looks so different for me, and I'm just like, how do you, like, that's not something I even feel like explaining to people half the time. And with our current landscape of social media, I feel like that also affects the queer community too, in terms of the pressure and stuff. The current landscape of social media feels like, okay, gotta get it out, and you have to tell me, like, your business is my business, and it's like, it's not, like, it's really not. And there's like, sometimes I go through these weird like moments where I'm just like, I really don't know how to feel. I really don't know how to feel about what's going on in terms of how we're showing up right now, because social media is a tricky thing. It's kind of like sometimes queerness feels like a trend. It doesn't only feel like an identity sometimes. Right. I'm just like, this person is cool because they're gay, like, or this would be cool because it's gay. I don't know, like, I just don't know or people trying to label things as gay that are not gay, and I'm just like, wait, what's gay about this? Like, sometimes I'll be like, am I missing something? Like, they want to label things as queer because if it's queer, then it's cool. I'm like, that's tricky to me. Like, that seems like it's a trend. It seems like what white people did with us, like with black people too. Like,
just thinking that.
Yeah, I'm just like, when white people started to quote unquote like put on blackness as a costume or I'm just like, I don't know.
It's a trend, yeah.
It's a trend. It's like the episode of The Other Two. I don't know if you've heard of The Other Two. It's a show on HBO Max. Yeah, it's on HBO Max. It's hilarious. It's like a parody of Justin Bieber. Like, the main character or the main focus is supposed to be like a Justin Bieber type character who kind of like went viral off a YouTube song he did, but the show is focused on his other two like less successful siblings, and how they're like trying to live their lives around having a little brother who got really successful. But it's so funny. But basically, there was an episode where one of the brothers is an actor, and he's just like, he's excited because he's got a date with this really hot actor, this really cute guy, and they go on a date, and then he realizes that this dude is really just trying to be seen out in public with another guy for paparazzi, so that people can think that he's like gay for the movie he's promoting or whatever. And I'm just like, they're really making fun of this trope, but honestly, that's real. I'm like, honestly, that's real. Or it's just like, there's still a big like subset of people in the industry who are queer and don't feel comfortable coming out, which is okay. Like, it shouldn't be the case, but it's like, on the flip side, there's just like, why are we othering so much still? I think where my head goes. It's kind of like, I wish that we would talk about that. The labels kind of go hand in hand, but in terms of mental health, I think the big othering of it, because we are different, like, we're so different. I don't know, maybe it's a controversial opinion, but I don't want to be as different as we're making it seem. I think everybody has something really unique about themselves, and the more we like other and hammer it in, it almost seems like it's kind of promoting the trend thing for social media. I feel like if social media wasn't in the picture and we were just fighting for our visibility, it would feel a lot different. Like, it wouldn't feel like, or if we were like, because people make films that are centered around queer people and identity and just all the beautiful things. I think it would look different, though, if social media wasn't in the picture, kind of, and all these different opinions and all these different narratives were present. It's just like, I think queer people should keep making art about being queer. I think everybody should really touch on what makes them unique and what they really like to say and the stories they really like to tell. Sometimes I'm just like, there are certain things we could clean up in our own house. Like, there's a lot of othering. There's a lot of bisexual erasure. And I think that's a big mental health thing, because it feels like expectations on people who are bisexual to be like, okay, I can't do this and that, but okay, how do I exist here? And that, to me, shouldn't be a question. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Like that is just like be so for real for me, for people who erase identity like that, and it be your own. It be your
I was
own.
about to say, even in queer spaces, like queer people love to be like bisexual people aren't queer. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa. Or don't bring your straight boyfriend to the party. I'm like, okay, I get why you would want to say that, yes, but this person is.
You're doing too much.
Yeah,
like, you did too much.
I would understand it if, like, I was throwing something like black, like, you know, black queer. That happens a lot. Like this black queer spaces. I'm like, you know, if there's a white person that you messing around with, maybe this isn't the date night. You know, maybe this isn't the. No. I'm like, so that type of thing, like, I get, but there are certain instances where I'm just like, we can be a little bit for real about this. I keep like referring back to like the black community because I feel like like queerness, for example, in the black community is something that we are divided on a lot. Like the acceptance rate of LGBTQ plus identity in the black community. I feel like if we were to ever get over that hurdle, we could, and also sexism. If we can ever really get over those hurdles, then I think we could really do some good work coming together. Like sometimes I'm just like, we do good work a lot of the times, but we could be so much stronger if we're not putting down our own people. Like black people do that sometimes in our communities. Queer people do that sometimes in our own circles and queer spaces. I'm like, the othering really affects like people's self-perception, and I think that has a lot to do with mental health, and that's just something I think we should talk about more and be like, let's take away this little ugly thing that kind of feels like it was adapted from social media to be like a checklist for gayness, like a checklist for queerness. No, throw that thing away. Like throw that thing in the trash. So that's my thing.
Yeah, I totally feel that. This idea of like, what is queerness, and like, it's just what I want it to be. Like low key, like it's just me being me, like legit. And I think that idea of othering, especially within the black community, is so real. Something that's coming to mind for me is just like this idea of like, I identify as non-binary, but then it's like I allow people to use like she pronouns, because I do present very femme, so it's like, okay, whatever. But also at the same time, like a lot of my guy friends are just like, Taisja's one of the boys. Like Taisja's one of the boys. And I think that like it's interesting because once terminology is like put into it, then like the black community is like, but why? But like why? But you just told me that I'm one of the boys, so like why is it actually a thing of like, why do I have to call you that? Like what's the point of changing your pronouns? And I feel like it's like very social media to be like, but why? Like, you know, like also to that point of like othering people, very social media to like just other for the basis of like pretending to not understand.
Oh yes, because I can definitely tell when people, I'm like, you can't be that dense. You can't be that.
You're dead not.
I'm sitting here like, have you seen, and like I've had to take such breaks from social media because I just can't believe the nonsense that people have the gall to type and press submit on this here internet. Like it's a wonder that I'm doing this project because I'm like, this is me. Like
I was over it.
I was really like, that's why a lot of things I wanted to do, it took me a while to actually get on it, put some action in there, because that would be one big thing that really discouraged me, was just like, the social media can really get on my nerves, and that's a big part of it now. It's like you have to have that social media aspect and presence when you're creating something and you want people to see, you want visibility, and I'm just like, how do people do this? Like, I'm sitting here like, can I get on the radio? Because, right? Sometimes I'm just like, I want to go back to the Steve Harvey morning show days.
Right? I'm like, let's get Wendy Williams up in here for real.
Wendy Williams. Be like, I love her.
Live, laugh, love her.
I don't even, my aunt really loves watching her show, but I'm like, I don't even watch her that much, but just watching, like, her most, like, iconic clips.
Yeah.
Just, like...
Good for my mental health, Wendy Williams.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a character right there, and I can learn a lot.
Oh, yeah, good character, a great character.
I love it. I so appreciate this conversation. I was like, wow, this is the first time in the episodes that I've done so far where I felt myself, like, really amped up to ramble. I love this. I feel like that's so good, and obviously I could talk about this for a long time. But we're going to move on to our last little game, which is our old TV Big Three, which I can do now because the strike is over.
Yeah, strike over.
Woo, confetti. But I'm about to knock this out. But, okay, so this is based off of our astrological Big Three. And you're supposed to pick a TV show and pick the characters and say which character represents your sun, which represents your moon, and which represents your rising.
So I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to need a refresher on sun, moon, and rising. I think I got it, but I'm not a big astrological gal, so...
Honestly, me neither, but I'm learning a lot from doing this. I'm actually learning a lot from doing this. So the sun is... what you were born with, like what is kind of like set in stone.
Okay.
It would be like where your birthday falls. So there's really no like operating outside of that.
Okay.
Then the moon is like what you feel internally, I believe. It's just like how you view yourself like emotionally and inwardly. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then rising. Rising is how you present to other people and like how other people might describe you or how you might show up in the world.
Cool. So I think I got it now. My show is The Office, and there's Michael. So he's definitely my rising, which is kind of crazy to say. He's very like erratic, but like very fun. Always wants to like have quality time with like the people that he really cares about. Does too much often, but like it's not actually like too much. Like, you know, where people are like, ugh, but no, you know, one of those. And then I would say that my moon is like how you're born with, right?
Your moon is the internal.
Yes, the internal.
Emotionally. I believe. I'm pretty sure. 88% sure.
Because I'm 0% sure. The moon, I would say I'm Kelly Kapoor. Okay. So she was like, what did I say? That's my moon. And what was the other one again? Sorry.
The sun?
The sun, yeah. What does the sun do?
Basically the innate one, the one that you would be...
Yes. Okay.
Given.
Okay. So no. That would be my Kelly Kapoor would be my son, because she is very just like this year my goal was to get more attention. And then, like, so she's very much like that. Like, I can't wait to go shopping. Or, like, I'm getting a whole new wardrobe. I can sell you some of my pieces instead of, like, giving it away. Like, she's very, like, whoa, girl.
I love that.
And I definitely feel like that's me low-key. But, like, you know, not, like, an asshole way. But, like, okay, you're so silly. And then lastly would be Stanley Hudson. And he is very, like, to himself. Like, I fucking hate this job, but I'm here because I know I need to be here. I know I need to show up and do these things. However, like, please, just leave me alone and let me do it. So, yeah, those are my three.
I like that. And I have not watched The Office, and I didn't watch it all the way through ever. I saw, like, a handful of episodes here and there. It might be the next show that I binge. I'm watching Shameless right now.
Oh. That one would give me panic attacks.
Right, I know. I'm sitting here like, I feel like I'm literally testing how much I could take.
No, literally. Because I'm like, that show, emotional bandwidth, you need it.
The storylines, I'm like, they did this every episode.
Every episode.
For years. For years.
I
was like,
are they okay?
I'm just thinking about this as an actor. I'm just like, did they have like on-set therapists specifically? Like, that's a big mental health thing.
Yo,
too. Like,
no, literally, that whole show was like a really good example of like how the systems will get you and then you're done.
Yeah.
Like, you're mentally done because like how do you get out of that? Like, how do you not be Fiona?
Right.
Like, you have 45 siblings, you want to take care of them, but people be like, no, just focus on you. Whoa.
Yeah. When she started to focus on, when she started to finally care about herself, it went crazy.
Exactly.
And I just think about those kid actors too. They're like experiencing some intense material to work with.
Very true.
For years. Like, I'm like, wow, those gotta be some really trusting parents too, to just be like,
the true.
yeah, you can do this. Like, somebody's got to tell this story.
They have to.
I'm just like, wow. But I feel like I need to put The Office on my list. Now, have you watched the UK version too?
No.
Okay.
I'm like,
I'm
no.
like, I haven't heard much about any other than the US version.
Yeah,
I know that there's another. I'm like, I know that there's another. I don't know. I watched the US version, but yeah, I know it was a big thing, and an ex of mine tried to get me to watch it one time, and I was just like, maybe that was my hesitation to go back and actually do it.
Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
No bad blood, but it's just not a thing anymore. So yeah, I really love that. I've been like trying to do my TV show Big Three off of other people's, because I have 2 solo episodes in the beginning and the end of this limited series podcast. But sometimes I'm like, you've done a show that I really like, and I'm like, ooh, The Office. I can't even talk about The Office. It'd be some cult favorites that I'm just like, I missed the mark on that one for some reason. Like, not because I didn't like it, not at all. It's just like something happened.
What's that show? Law and Order.
Oh, me too. Me too.
And Grey's Anatomy.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that, because I've watched Grey's Anatomy.
I'm not gonna hold you all them ABC shows. Scandal.
It was too much. Scandal, it was too much because
with murder.
How to Get Away.
Yeah, How to Get Away.
I watched How to Get Away with Murder late in college, like, because my friend was like, you have to watch it so we can talk about it, and I knew that the series finale was coming, like the last season.
Yeah. So you're like, okay.
So I was like, I'll watch it with you because we're cool, and then we're going to be able to talk about this. And then, like, one of the actors in the show is now one of my acting teachers, so.
Oh, shoot.
He's probably going to watch this, so shout out, Taisja.
Yeah. Get away with murder.
Yes, but no, I watched How to Get Away with Murder because of my friend Darius was like, you need to watch it. And I watched Grey's Anatomy because I was like, I'm down for a challenge. Like,
I'm down for a challenge.
And back then, I think when I started watching Grey's Anatomy, like freshman year of college, I think I started watching. They were only on like season 10 or 11. Only, literally only.
Only season 10 or 11.
And now it's like season 19 or something like that. I was just like, I really grew with the show.
Yeah. I saw a thing where someone came up to Calliope and was like, do you know this person from Grey's Anatomy? She was like, yeah. She's like, are you her mom?
Oh, yeah.
Because of how long the show's been on.
That was Katherine Heigl.
Yeah. Oh, Katherine Heigl. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
So funny.
Are you her mom?
Like, no, I'm her.
I'm her, sweetie. She was like, get out. And she said that person was like 17 or something like that. I was just like,
wait a minute.
I was like, I guess. Like, sometimes my mind is off because I think about my little brother is 16. I'm like, okay, so maybe they could get confused. But that seems like old enough to me, even if you had just watched it for the first time, to know that that's just...
She's still young.
That's just her, just older.
She's still young. She's still here.
Right. That's just 20 years. Dang.
20 years.
That's 20 years in a show.
That's a lot of fucking time.
That is a lot of... I won't hold you, though. If it was good, I probably would stay on a project.
Of course. Grey's Anatomy. Oh, absolutely. If
like,
Grey's Anatomy,
and the security.
You better stay.
The security. Because not a lot of actors want to be doing a lot of stuff outside of acting, and I understand that. I do have a lot of interest, so I'm grateful to have more interests that can keep me, like, in a state of joy while I'm not acting. But if I got something like that and didn't have to go through an interim period of, I got to audition again and I got to sit here and got to try to book a role again. Oh, shoot, I would be like Richard Weber and Miranda Bailey, and I'll be on the show for 20 years too.
No, legit. I think about that too, like the Game of Thrones kids. Like
I didn't watch that
got
either.
a quick bag. Oh, I did that one. I definitely did that one. They got a quick big bag.
Right.
Big bag.
We literally had just like a TV show rundown right now, and it feels so good. It feels so good.
It's for our mental health.
Right. It's for our mental health because I'm literally about to go home after this and watch Shameless. So we're that's gonna be a destruction to my mental health a little bit because I feel like Carl's about to go to jail, and I'm so mad. I knew, because this is what attracted me to watch the show, because everybody talking about the references of White Boy Carl and me not knowing what was going on. So I was just like, okay, let me go watch it so I can get with. But I start to really like this kid.
No,
and
he's so great. I low-key love him.
And I know he's gonna be a fun little prison dude, but I'm just like, dang, I don't really want him to go to jail.
It was great, even growing up when he was like selling guns at school. I was fake here for it. I was like, wait, like
he said, I'm in love, and now I'm gonna have just these guns.
So good.
But yes, we're nearing the end of the show. So if you can tell our listeners where they can find you.
Oh yeah, where can you find me? I'm on Instagram at Q.TAI. I also have been selling my own poetry book, and it is at deadtaisja.com. So it's dead and then TAISJA.com. And so I do therapy, but like I don't know if I actually want you to be my clients. That might sound crazy. But, but like my own mental health.
No, I would say that's the right call. Wait, explain, because I don't think I ever asked you. Explain Dead Taisja. Like, how'd you come up with that name?
Yeah, so I think even speaking about earlier, like when I was younger, I had so many emotions, but I didn't know what to do with them, and I really was like depressed. It was very much like, let's do it, let's go.
Yeah.
And so I started writing poetry, and it felt very like connected, like very just like this idea of feeling dead as I was writing. Like this just is like not what I want to be. Like this isn't who I want to be. And so I think that's where it came from. Just kept it going because sometimes life be hard, and I do be feeling like. So
yeah, I totally get that, and I'm gonna get your poetry book. I have not forgotten. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Taisja, for joining me. Thank you for tuning in to 23, 24, 25. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And catch us next week for All About Spirituality. We're going to get into it. And I'm really going to say this every single time. You already know, but you're not going to want to miss that one. So be there or be square. All right. Thanks, y'all. Bye, guys.
23, 24, 25 is a podcast produced and hosted by Josca. Graphic design by Josca. Executive producer, director of photography, and editor, Dante Charles Critchlow. Music by Fadal Moore. A special thanks to Anthony and Celintia Moore, Constance Moore, and Harold Hickson for their contributions to production. And a special thanks to viewers like you who create the community of my wildest dreams. Thank you.
23, 24, 25 TV.